Hello, everyone. Today I wanted to talk about a movie that I recently purchased in the Kino Lorber March Madness sale. I'm trying to catch up on all the films that I bought recently in these sales, and so I'm in the midst of a kind of marathon, 18 films in 18 days, 18 Blu-rays in 18 days. Today's film is from 1970, and it's called Lovers and Other Strangers. It's a comedy. It was based on a Broadway play written by Joseph Bologna and Ann Mira. They appeared in the play themselves. It's a very successful Broadway play, but they don't appear in the film, but they did write the screenplay for the film. And it's directed by Cy Howard, who is basically a television director. He did do some movies. It's basically a series of scenes that depict relationships of what love and sex were, marriage were in 1970. The world had changed dramatically in the late 60s, almost overnight in the United States, where attitudes, especially towards sex and marriage, were now very, very different than they once were. Broadway probably reflected that a little bit quicker than movies did, but movies of this period really did depict the change in attitudes, and Lovers and Other Strangers really addresses this, what was called the generation gap. The older generation, stodgy and conformist, and they didn't like people living together. They didn't like divorce, and the Lovers and Other Strangers confronts all that. And the main couple, or the incident, it's a wedding, is in the offing. Michael Brandon and Bonnie Bedelia play these two characters. He's reluctant to marry. They've been living together for a year. It's a secret to his parents, who are Italian and very anti-liberation. Her parents are a little bit different. He's reluctant. Why can't we just go on the way we've been living? We've been happy. And he goes through all the different kinds of explanations, justifications for not getting married. Bonnie Bedelia plays these scenes really well, because she has this sort of bemused smile as she listens to these complaints, and she knows that as soon as she puts her hand on his shoulder, that he will give in to what she wants, which is indeed to get married. Another very funny, perhaps the funniest part of the whole movie, is the relationship between Gig Young and Ann Jackson. She plays his longtime mistress. She's Gig Young's wife's best friend, but Gig Young's always promising to divorce. He doesn't do it. He's so funny. He's worried about everybody. He justifies his own inability to act, to make a decision, because he's so worried about everybody else's happiness. And of course, he's really only worried about his own happiness. And the wife is played by Cloris Leachman, and this is kind of she's barely in the movie, but the couple scenes she's in, she's pretty effective in. She's sort of like she's sort of like a doll-like figure. She has no idea that her husband and her best friend have been having an affair for 10 years. She sort of lives in a kind of dream world. Then another really funny relationship is between Bob Dishy, who is an usher in the wedding, and a actress called Marion Haley. And she didn't make very many movies. I think she was primarily a stage actress. She's really funny. They end up on a blind date. She's a friend. She's a cousin, I believe, of Bonnie Bedelia. So Bonnie Bedelia sets up a little blind date before the wedding with Bob Dishy, a friend of Michael Brandon, the groom. And he just wants to score. That's all he cares about. And that's all any woman is to him. She, on the other hand, is steeped in the second sex, the prophet. She's looking for a transcendent moment in a sexual relationship. So his struggle, his frustrations, and just as it seems like they're about to embark on an actual sexual adventure, she pulls back and talks about all her passages from the different readings that she had. Then there's Richard Castellano in B. Arthur. Now, Richard Castellano, who you might know from The Godfather, gets an Academy Award nomination, Best Supporting Actor for Lovers and Other Strangers. What's the story, Richard? So come on, what's the story? They've been informed that their older son is getting divorced, and they just can't grasp it. And they kind of, both the B. Arthur, Maud, and Richard Castellano discuss what marriage is like to them, which is basically you just reach a moment of contentment. When you're younger, you give up this whole idea of being happy, and that's just silly, and it's just nonsense. It's once your marriage goes on and whatever bumps, and there's been bumps. Richard Castellano says, I strayed too, in trying to get their oldest son to reconsider the divorce that he's about to have. This is a terrific sequence, as is the Harry Gardino and Mira relationship. Ann Mira's playing Bonnie Bedelia's older sister, and she is, her and her husband have been married quite a while. She's still hot to trot. He's not interested at all in sex, and I would imagine this was probably the Joseph Bologna, Renee Taylor relationship, or the actors, the characters that they played in the Broadway production, because it certainly seems like some of their comedy. They used to appear together a lot on television variety shows and talk shows, and this really delves into everything, of male and female. What's a man's duty? What's a female's duty? And they know how to get at each other in every which way possible. So all these sequences, they're all really very funny and often very touching. And then who turns up at the end? The older son's wife, who their possible divorce is coming, and this is Diane Keaton. And this is Diane Keaton's, I believe it's her first role. I think she only made a couple of television appearances before this role. So this is at the wedding reception. She walks in, of course, Richard Castellano and B. Arthur try to convince her, divorce isn't right, you need to get back together and whatever. And she just looks, she's so stunned. She loves everybody, they love her. But, sometimes relationships just don't work out too well. So this is to me, this is a classic comedy, and it's very funny, it's very knowing. It doesn't really seem dated whatsoever. This is like 50 years ago. And I think that's a tribute to the writing of Joseph Bologna and Renee Taylor, and also to the great cast that they had for Lovers and Other Strangers. Highly recommended. It's available on Kino Lorber. Okay, so that's my comments for this movie. Anybody who stuck around long enough this far, I really appreciate it. Subscribe, likes, comments. If you've seen the film, if you like the film, I'd love to hear them, and I'll respond to them. If not, you guys take care.